G'day to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. What I'd love to do today on this beautiful spring day is to talk to you about a book, and the book that I've selected for this episode is entitled Winning the Heart of Your Child, a book that was written by Mike Berry and published on the 5th of February 2019. What if the very thing we crave most from our children, respect, trust, openness, can't really be commanded, but only earned? What if all our parenting tactics, timeouts, consequences, and desperate lectures are missing the mark, not because we're failing, but because we've been aiming at the wrong target all along? What if your child needs a stricter boundary or a better punishment? Or what if they need, more importantly, is a softer and steadier you? In this book, Winning the Heart of Your Child, Mike Berry dares us to ask different questions. Not how do I fix this behaviour, but why is my child hurting? Not how do I make them listen, but have I made it safe for them to speak in the first place? This author invites us off the battlefield of behaviour management and into the sacred healing work of connection. He doesn't offer easy answers. He offers honest reflection, and chances are it will change you. It invites us to trade control for compassion, outcomes for openness, and fear-based parenting for grace-fueled love. So let's see what we can take from this book, what we can learn, and what we can incorporate into our inventory of skills to help us on our journey to become more productive and hopefully better parents. So the first key message to come from this book is where we look at connection, and the author describes connection as the soil, and everything else grows from there. Everything grows from connection. So connection is more important than correction. Before consequences, before correction, before character building, there is what the author here calls connection. Berry teaches that unless a child feels emotionally safe and seen, nothing else will take root. Without connection, discipline feels like rejection. And with connection, even hard conversations feel like care. The stronger the will, the softer the approach needs to be, is another message. Most of us try to meet strong-willed children with even stronger will. More rules and more consequences. But what this author tells us is that he flips that script and he shows us that behind that defiance is usually a scared and an unseen child. What they need isn't more control. What they need is more calm, not louder rules, but deeper relationship with their family. What the author also mentions in this wonderful book is that behaviour is a story, but you have to want to read that story, because when a child acts out, most of us try to correct it. But now what we need to do is to learn to pause and to wonder, what's the story behind this behaviour? Is it fear? Is it exhaustion? And we have a need to test if I'll still love them when they are indeed unlovable. Berry teaches us to get curious before getting corrective. Another message which comes from this book, from this author, is that winning compliance is not the same as winning the heart. We normally think that if our child followed the rules, we'd be doing our job. But Berry gently peels that illusion away from us, because a compliant child can still feel very distant, resentful, or unloved. So what's our true goal? Our true goal is not perfect obedience, but to win an open heart that trusts us enough to come close even when they have failed. The author also mentions that discipline without empathy damages trust. We never forget the day that we punish a child or something later where they admit that the root or the behaviour is rooted in fear, and they didn't really need a lecture. They needed us instead. And Berry reminds us that discipline must be wrapped in empathy, or it becomes punishment that punishes our children and pushes them further away. Apologies are not weaknesses. What the author says is that they're actually bridges. And most of us would think that saying I'm sorry would diminish the authority, but the author here teaches us the opposite is actually true. A parent who owns their mistakes actually creates safety, because apologies become the bridge that tell our kids, I'm human too, and I love you enough to repair what I have broken. We move on to learn also that your presence speaks louder than your words. In the chaos of tantrums, we tend to talk too much, trying to reason with our children and putting them and cornering them back to regulation. but Berry's voice rings very loud in our heads now. Be there more than you speak is the lesson. Sometimes the most healing thing one can do is to offer your calm, anchored presence that says, I won't leave when you're too much. The author also mentions here that fear-based parenting produces short-term results and long-term distance. Surely you can scare your kids into obedience, but at what cost? Berry helps the readers see how fear may indeed control behaviour, but it kills intimacy. The voice I wanted in their head wasn't, what will mum do if I mess up? But the very voice that says, I can talk to mum or dad about anything. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club, where hopefully we've picked up a few more lessons on parenting and how to deal with children. And I look forward to coming to you again from another place and with another message of empowerment. Yassas, take care, and bye for now.